My name is Lillian Ehlers. I'm 31 years old, living in downtown Austin in a condo I bought with my own money after grinding through 9 years in the tech world. People look at the car I drive and the view from my balcony and assume I got lucky. But luck had nothing to do with it. I built everything from scratch, every late night debugging session, every weekend learning a new language. Every morning, I told myself to keep going, even when burnout whispered otherwise. I lead a team of 8 developers now. Good salary, good reputation, stable life. I thought stability was what every grown adult wanted. Turns out, not everyone wants to feel grounded. Some people, like my boyfriend Nathan Cole, crave chaos the way others crave oxygen. Nathan and I were together almost 3 years. We met at a friend's rooftop party one August evening in 2021. He walked in wearing a white linen shirt like he'd just come back from a sailing trip he absolutely did not take. But he had this warm grin, the kind that could convince you to lean in and hear more. He worked in marketing, good at reading people, good at charming them. He made me laugh with a story about a disastrous date where the woman spent the entire night FaceTiming her cat. I countered with the guy who showed up wearing a cowboy hat and demanded I call him Ranger. We clicked immediately, exchanged numbers, and by our second date at Uchi, I knew he wasn't like the usual performative tech bros I met at networking events. At least, I thought he wasn't. The first year felt easy. He'd come to my place after work, lean against the counter while I cooked, stealing bites and teasing me about my obsession with labeling everything in the pantry. On weekends, we'd hit food trucks, hike Barton Creek, fall asleep halfway through Netflix shows. I used to think love was supposed to be louder, messier. With him, it felt like breathing. Natural. Comfortable. He introduced me to his friend group, and that's where I met Helena, his best friend since college. Helena was the opposite of Nathan's marketing-obsessed circle. She worked in nonprofit development, spoke with passion when she talked about literacy programs, and marginalized kids learning how to read for the first time. She was grounded, empathetic, observant. You could feel her watching the room, not to judge, but to understand. The three of us hung out often. Coffee shops, trivia nights, casual dinners. Helena and I synced quickly. She listened when I talked about my work, actually asked follow-up questions about languages and frameworks. She remembered the small things, like how I only drink dark roast coffee or how shellfish gives me hives. Nathan remembered these things too. Sometimes. Other times he'd suggest sushi places and I'd have to remind him again. Looking back, Helena noticed the cracks before I did, but she kept quiet out of loyalty or denial. It began in our second year. Nathan started making these comments, minor at first. Sometimes I feel like I settled down too young. Or standing at a bar watching younger guys flirt with tourists, he'd say, "Man, did I get boring too fast?" I thought it was normal, mid-20s panic. Everyone wonders if they missed out on something. I sure did. I spent so much of my early 20s coding in dark rooms I barely remembered what sunshine looked like. But his comments grew heavier, more persistent. It didn't help that his coworker Mason became his new spiritual guide. If spiritual guides wore overpriced sneakers and preached the gospel of options, Mason bragged about his rotation, and every time Nathan hung out with him, he'd come back talking like someone had turned on a faucet full of insecurities. Maybe people who settle down at 30 are just scared of being alone. Mason says I should experience more before locking anything in. Mason says men peak later. If Mason jumped off of the Congress Avenue Bridge, I'm pretty sure Nathan would have asked how high he had to jump to be considered living fully. Then came the Instagram spiral. Nathan always liked social media, but suddenly it became his personality. Perfectly curated photos, overly edited captions about freedom and adventure, endless followbacks, less couple photos, more solo shots, more comments from random women, more late-night content sessions where he'd adjust lighting for 20 minutes. When I asked about it, he brushed me off. "You're overthinking it, Lil. It's just Instagram." But it wasn't. He was building a version of himself that didn't have me in it. Not fully. Helena noticed it too. One Saturday, Nathan bailed on our plan to meet my coworkers because Mason had invited him to a bar crawl. Helena came to help me rearrange my office instead. She found his ring light in the corner. "He's filming here now?" she asked gently. "Yeah, every weekend, pretty much." She didn't respond. She didn't have to. Her silence said everything she wasn't ready to admit aloud. The breaking point, though, came 6 months before his birthday. We planned a weekend getaway to Marfa. Boutique hotel booked, art galleries mapped out, dinner reservations set. One of those romantic, wind-in-your-hair desert trips couples post about on Pinterest. 2 days before the trip, he canceled. Mason had a breakup. He needs me. Boys' weekend. You understand, right? Sure. I understood that he preferred consoling Mason over following through on a trip I spent hours planning. When he came back, the photos told a different story. Not quiet, supportive guy time. Club pictures, beach pictures, women I'd never seen. Ran into them, he said. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just shut down. Something in me went quiet. I didn't break up with him, not yet. But I started building walls, preparing for the inevitable. Helena saw it before I said a word. We were at a coffee shop one afternoon when she put down her latte and gave me that look, sharp but kind. Are you okay? I'm fine, I lied. She leaned back, studying me. Nathan. What does that mean? She hesitated. He gets restless. He did this in college, too. That made me sit up. Nathan never told me specifics about his past relationships, just vague comments like, I wasn't ready then. Helena continued, quieter now. He had a great girlfriend junior year, thought he'd marry her. Then he spiraled, said he needed freedom, broke her heart, partied for a year, regretted it when she moved on. Why are you telling me this? I whispered. She stared into her cup. Because I like you, Lillian, and I don't want to watch you become another chapter in the same story. Her honesty stung, not because she was wrong, but because she was the first person to say out loud what I already feared. Still, I stayed. 3 years is a long time. You don't just walk away because someone's going through a phase, or that's what I told myself. And then came his birthday, his big 32. The milestone he swore was no big deal, but suddenly wanted a rooftop celebration for. This was where everything truly began to unravel. Nathan's birthday fell on a Saturday, and 2 weeks before the date, he casually mentioned wanting something small. A little rooftop gathering with close friends, maybe some lights, some cocktails, but nothing crazy, he said, like he wasn't about to hand me a maze of expectations disguised as simplicity. I should have said no. I should have told him to plan it himself. But 3 years of trying to be understanding had wired me to fill in every gap he left, to carry every load he dropped. So I planned it. I reserved his favorite downtown rooftop for the whole evening, $800 for the deposit alone. I hired a bartender to create signature cocktails named after his ridiculous inside jokes. I ordered a 3-tier cake that cost more than my monthly power bill. I spent a whole night designing the invitations, then printing, folding, sealing them while trying not to think about the fact that he hadn't even said thank you. Helena helped with the coordination. She didn't say much while we stuffed envelopes at my dining table, but she kept glancing at me with this soft, worried look. At one point she murmured, "You're putting so much love into this." "I want him to feel celebrated," I said. "Maybe it'll remind him what we have." Helena opened her mouth like she wanted to say something. Then she stopped, shook her head, and forced a smile. "He is lucky," she said quietly, but her eyes said, "He doesn't deserve this." The evening of the party, I arrived early, strung up warm lights across the deck, set out floral arrangements that cost way too much, adjusted the table placements, checked the drink menu, checked the cake, checked the lights again. I told myself the flutter in my chest was excitement, not dread. The skyline was glowing. The rooftop looked like a Pinterest board come to life. It should have felt beautiful. It felt heavy. Nathan arrived fashionably late, of course. He stepped off the elevator with Mason and 2 other friends, all laughing, like this was their personal red carpet event. "Baby, this is amazing," Nathan said, hugging me briefly, barely a brush of arms, before he was pulled away by Mason for photos. The photographer I hired, another $300, was already snapping shots of him like he was the main character of his own music video. Meanwhile, I stood near the bar, fixing my hair, even though no one was looking. For the next 2 hours, I floated from guest to guest, offering polite smiles, introducing myself to people Nathan had known for years, but had never properly introduced to me. Nathan didn't come near me, not once. I watched him pose for photo after photo with different groups, angling himself into the best light, tilting his jaw the way the photographer told him. He cheered shots with his coworkers. He laughed loudly at jokes that weren't funny. Every few minutes, he was somewhere new, arm around someone's shoulder, leaning dramatically on a railing, running a hand through his hair like he was auditioning for a magazine cover. I took a sip of my whiskey and tried not to feel invisible. "Are you okay?" Helena appeared at my side, a Manhattan in hand. Yeah, just watching. I forced a smile. You kind of look like you're watching from outside the glass, she said softly. Feels like it. Helena's gaze drifted toward Nathan, now doing a celebratory toast with Mason. Her jaw tightened. This is really nice, Lillian. What you did here. It must have cost a fortune. I wanted it to feel special. It is, she said. Then. But he hasn't even acknowledged you in 2 hours. Her voice trembled with the frustration she was trying to hide. I didn't respond. What was there to say? That she was right? That I felt like a wedding planner at my own boyfriend's birthday? People started moving toward the cake table around 10. Phones came out. Lights dimmed. The skyline shimmered behind the crowd. Nathan stepped onto a small platform near the cake, his face glowing with attention, the exact drug he'd been craving. Madison clinked her glass. Speech! Nathan lifted his drink, beaming, and the room fell silent. I just want to say thank you, he began, turning 32. It makes you think about your life, what you want, who you are. People nodded, smiling. And what I've realized, he continued, voice growing stronger, is that I'm too young to be tied down to one person. My stomach plummeted. He kept speaking, words pouring out like he'd rehearsed them. Life is too short to settle. I want to meet new people, try new things, be free. A few people cheered, clueless. Others slowly turned their heads toward me. I felt every gaze like a blade. Nathan raised his glass high, to freedom. Some people echoed it weakly. Others stared at the floor. I didn't cry. I didn't say anything. Instead, I lifted my glass and said, calm, steady, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. To your freedom. I drained the drink in one swallow. The look on his face. Surprise. Confusion. A flicker of panic. He expected a meltdown. A scene. A humiliation he could weaponize later. He didn't get it. I pulled out my phone, opened in the payment app, found his profile, and sent a request for $3,800 with the note. Birthday party expenses. Since you're celebrating freedom, you can cover it. A few people gasped. Someone whispered, holy shit. I set my empty glass down, turned, and walked toward the elevator. Lillian! Helena hurried after me. Where are you going? She asked, breathless. Home. There's no point staying here. She looked back at Nathan, still stunned on his platform. Guests surrounding him, whispering, some recording. Her jaw clenched. Can I come with you? I stared at her. Are you sure? He stopped being my best friend the moment he pulled that crap, she said, voice shaking. I'm not staying to watch him dig his hole deeper. The elevator arrived. We stepped inside. As the doors closed, Helena muttered under her breath, freedom, my ass. Helena and I stepped out of the elevator into the cool night. The city hum wrapped around us. Distant music, muffled traffic, the echo of laughter from strangers. It felt surreal, like I'd slipped into a different universe where the last 3 years of my life had never existed. Neither of us spoke as we walked to my car. Helena wrapped her arms around herself, jaw tight, eyes glassy with anger she wasn't ready to release. I unlocked the doors, and we slid in, shutting out the outside world. My phone buzzed once, then again. Then a dozen times in rapid succession. I didn't check, I already knew who it was. At my condo, Helena followed me inside without asking. She kicked off her shoes, sat on my couch, and stared at nothing. I poured her a glass of wine and handed it over. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Why are you apologizing? Because I saw it coming, she said, voice small. I should have told you more. I should have warned you. You did, I reminded her gently. I just didn't want to believe it. She rubbed the bridge of her nose. He could have talked to you privately. He could have ended things like an adult, but he chose a stage, with a skyline backdrop, and a cake you paid for. Her voice cracked, not with sadness, but with fury. I've known Nathan for years, she said. He's always wanted attention, but this was something else. This was cruelty. I sat next to her, tired in a way I'd never felt, like grief and relief had fused inside my chest. We talked until almost 2 a.m, drinking slowly, unraveling years of patterns I had refused to see. Helena admitted things I didn't know. Nathan's history of impulsive breakups, emotional spirals, his desperate need to be admired. The way his social circle fed his ego, validating every selfish decision. People like Mason always hyped him up, she said bitterly. Told him he was too charming to settle, too attractive, too full of potential, like commitment is death. Doesn't excuse what he did. No, she agreed. Nothing excuses that. Around 3 a.m., Helena crashed in my guest room. I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment of the toast over and over. But every time my chest tightened, the memory of my calm voice saying, "To your freedom," made something inside me steady again. When I finally fell asleep, my phone still vibrating on my nightstand, I didn't check a single message. In the morning, sunlight cut through my curtains like thin blades. I dragged myself to the kitchen. My eyes were swollen. My throat felt raw. But there was an eerie sense of quiet inside me, like someone had turned off a storm. Helena emerged in one of my hoodies, hair a mess, face tired. She held up my phone, which she'd collected from the living room table. "You might want to see this," she said. Reluctantly, I unlocked it. 47 missed calls, 89 text messages, mostly from Nathan, some from Mason, a few from people I barely knew. Nathan's messages were chaos. "Where did you go? Talk to me. People are asking why you're being dramatic. You embarrassed me by leaving. You're taking this too seriously. I didn't mean it like that. Can we talk? Please. Lillian, answer me. I love you. Why are you being cruel? I didn't do anything wrong." My stomach twisted, not because I wanted him back, but because the messages read like a script he'd used before. A cycle, a pattern. Helena took the phone from my hand, staring at the screen with disgust. "He's unbelievable," she said softly. Then, "There's more." She tapped into social media. Mason had posted a long Instagram story. "Saw the most toxic behavior last night. Nathan was just expressing his truth, and Lillian threw a tantrum and left her own boyfriend at his birthday. Women like her can't handle honesty. Free yourself, King." Helena snorted. "King? King? I can't believe he posted that." "Oh, I can," she muttered. "It's Mason." But then she clicked on my messages again, except this time they weren't from Nathan's circle. They were from guests at the party. "Nathan was wrong for that. You handled it with class. Everyone saw what happened. You didn't deserve that, Lillian. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. Strangers, co-workers, people who hardly knew me." And Helena, sweet, steady Helena, put her hand over mine. "People saw the truth," she said, "even if Nathan tries to rewrite it." I swallowed hard. The lump in my throat finally gave way to something warm, something like solidarity. Then Helena hesitated. "There's something else," she said. I braced myself. "What?" She opened a message from someone named Laura, one of Nathan's co-workers. "Lillian, I don't know if you know this, but earlier that day, Nathan told Mason he wanted to do something dramatic to boost his social media engagement. He said he needed a big moment. I thought he was joking. I'm so sorry." My blood ran cold. Helena was watching my face closely. "I didn't want to show you unless you asked, but you needed to know." So the speech, the performance, the humiliation was premeditated. Not just selfish, calculated. Nathan wanted an audience, a story, a viral moment. And I had been the collateral damage. My voice came out low, steady. "He used me." Helena nodded. "He used you because he knew you'd never retaliate. Because you're kind. Because you're steady. Because you gave him stability he didn't want to admit he needed." I closed my eyes, exhaled, opened them again. "I'm done," I said. "I'm completely done." Helena's shoulders softened with relief. "I'm here," she said gently. "Whatever you need." For the first time in months, maybe longer, I believed it. 3 days passed. Nathan kept trying to reach me. I blocked him. He made new accounts. I blocked those too. Mason tried posting more King energy stories, but people weren't buying it anymore. A few girls in their circle commented publicly, calling out the hypocrisy. A couple even unfollowed Mason. One coworker dropped a succinct comment. "Pretty sure you're describing emotional abuse, not honesty." The narrative was turning, not because of me, because of the truth. Meanwhile, Helena checked in every day. She brought soup, helped me reorganize my condo, sat with me through the silence. She never pressed, never pushed, never made this about her. One night she looked at me, eyes gentle. "I hope you know you didn't fail," she said. "I feel stupid," I admitted. "You shouldn't," she replied. "You loved someone who didn't know what to do with love. That's not stupidity, that's humanity." I stared at her, overwhelmed by gratitude. Her presence was the anchor I didn't know I needed, the calm I hadn't felt in years. And as the weeks passed, something shifted, quietly, naturally, without force. Not romance, not yet, but something new. A possibility. And that possibility would change everything in the part of the story that came next. 3 weeks passed before I finally exhaled without feeling something heavy sitting on my chest. I wasn't healed, not fully, but I wasn't drowning anymore. I went to work. I took long walks through Lady Bird Lake. I cooked meals just for myself and didn't feel lonely doing it. Helena remained steady through it all. Sometimes she came over with takeout. Sometimes she just sat beside me in silence. Sometimes we talked until sunrise about things that had nothing to do with Nathan. Books, travel, dreams we had shelved for later. We never crossed any lines, but something in the air had changed. It was a fragile, quiet shift, like a door opening in the distance. But the first real turning point came at a mutual friend's game night, the first event I felt brave enough to attend since the birthday disaster. I almost didn't go. I stood outside the house for a full minute, key in hand, ready to just turn around. But Helena squeezed my palm lightly. "I'm right here," she whispered. And somehow that was enough. Inside, the room buzzed with laughter. A couple of people looked surprised to see me, but in a good way, like they were relieved I was alive after witnessing a car crash in slow motion. Then I saw Daniel Reyes. Tall, dark curly hair, kind eyes, the type of man whose presence didn't push into the room but filled it gently. He was Helena's coworker, someone I'd met twice in passing but had never really spoken to. "Lillian," he said, stepping forward. "Wow, it's good to see you." "You too," I replied, meaning it. He offered a smile, not the pitying kind, not the awkward kind, a warm, grounded smile that didn't demand anything from me. "Helena told me you're doing better," he continued. I raised an eyebrow at her, and she shrugged with a small, innocent grin. "I didn't give details, just that you're healing." Daniel nodded. "I'm glad. And for what it's worth," he hesitated, choosing his words carefully, "everyone at that party saw the truth. People still talk about it. No one thinks you were wrong." Heat prickled behind my eyes, but not from sadness, from validation. Daniel spent most of the night nearby, never hovering, never intruding, just present. When we needed one more player for a trivia team, he joined ours. When someone made an insensitive joke about breakups, he changed the subject without making it awkward. I found myself relaxing, laughing, being myself. It was startling how easy it was. When Helena drove us home, she glanced over with a teasing smile. "So, Daniel," she said. I groaned. "Stop!" Okay, just saying he's good." "He's kind," I admitted. "And stable," she added. "And doesn't crave attention from a crowd." "Also that." Helena grinned. "He's also been single for a while. Very, very single." "Helena." She raised her hands. "Fine, I'll shut up. For now." But Daniel became part of my world slowly, subtly, not forcing his way in, but easing into the spaces where I finally felt ready to let someone exist. We grabbed coffee the next week, then dinner with mutual friends, then long walks after work where I talked more than I meant to, and he listened like every word mattered. He never made a move, never hinted, never rushed. One night, sitting on the balcony with him, looking over the city lights, I said quietly, "You know I'm not ready for anything serious." Daniel nodded. "I know." "And you're okay with that?" He looked at me, eyes steady. "Lillian, I don't need you to be ready for me. I just need you to be ready for yourself." Something inside me unraveled in that moment. Not in a painful way, but as if someone had loosened knots I'd been carrying for years. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe. Of course, that's when Nathan came back into the picture. It always happens like that. The moment your light stops shining on someone, they notice the darkness they've created. 6 weeks after his birthday, I ran into Nathan at a mutual friend's housewarming party. I didn't know he'd be there. He didn't know I would be either. He froze when he saw me. Then he saw Daniel, standing next to me, relaxed, hands in his pockets. Nathan's expression twisted. He stalked over. "Are you kidding me?" I stepped back instinctively, but Daniel remained calm, grounding. Nathan's voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "You've moved on? Already?" I stared at him. At the man who had publicly broken up with me for an audience. At the man who humiliated me for attention. At the man who hadn't apologized once. Not truly. "You moved on at your own birthday party," I said softly. "I just didn't make it a performance." His face flushed red. "I didn't mean what I said. It came out wrong." "It came out practiced," I corrected. "Rehearsed. You wanted a dramatic moment. You wanted views." Nathan paled. The truth hit him like a slap. "You don't understand," he said weakly. "No," I replied. "I finally do." His voice shook. "I miss you. I made a mistake." Daniel didn't speak. He didn't glare. He simply stood slightly closer, not blocking me, but making it clear I wasn't alone. Nathan's eyes darted between us, envy blooming like a bruise. "Helena," Nathan suddenly snapped, turning toward her. "You're my friend. Aren't you going to say something?" Helena didn't flinch. "I am saying something," she replied calmly. "This is the first time in years I've seen Lillian truly happy, and it's not because of you." Nathan swallowed hard. "Let her go," Helena added. "It's over." He looked at me, desperate, humiliated, small. Please, Lillian, he whispered. Just give me another chance. I took a steady breath. You wanted freedom, Nathan, I said, and now you have it. Don't come looking for me in the spaces you created by pushing me out. He blinked rapidly. His lip trembled. Then he turned and walked away. It wasn't satisfying. It wasn't triumphant. It was closure. Pure and simple. Months later, the life I built looks nothing like the one I left behind. Helena and I remain close, closer than ever. She still teases me about Daniel, who is, slowly, patiently, becoming someone I can imagine a future with. We're not rushing. We're not performing. We're not pretending. We're choosing something real. One night, as we walked along South Congress, Daniel took my hand, gently, giving me the chance to pull away if I wanted to. I didn't. He looked over at me with that quiet smile of his. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. For the first time in a long time, I really am. And I meant it. Because healing isn't about getting someone back. It's about getting yourself back. Nathan was a chapter in my story. A long one, a painful one, but just a chapter. And I am still writing the rest.